police say there has been a sharp rise in hate crimes since the start of the Israel-Hamas war.
Since October 7th, hate crime is up 93% over the same period last year.
The police chief saying the majority of hate crimes so far in 2024 targeted the Jewish community, while he's also concerned with the underreporting of acts of Islamophobia. Plus,
I promised that in due time, the truth will emerge.
A man accused of killing a Toronto police officer 3 years ago pleads not guilty to first-degree murder as jury selection begins for his trial. And
once again, we just continue to be affected by delays and noise and at a much more substantial rate than anybody prepares us for.
A much-delayed construction project in the city's West End continues to cause headaches for residents. Now the residents of Old Mill Drive are asking for accountability from City Hall. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Some alarming data from Toronto Police today. They say hate crimes in the city have surged since the Israel-Hamas war began last October. The police chief revealing today that there has been a 93% rise in the number of reported incidents compared to the same time period a year earlier. Talia Ricci has the details.
It's been 163 days since the war in the Middle East began, and Toronto's police chief says the impact here at home is significant.
Officers have made 24 protest-related arrests and laid 30 charges since October 7th in response to threats, assaults, and mischief.
There have been 989 calls related to hate crimes since then, and there have been 203 hate crime occurrences. DemQ said officers are attending on average 157 hate crime-related calls every month. There have also been 342 occurrences of hate-related graffiti. DemQ says while December and January saw a lull in hate-related calls, incidents ballooned in February. That month saw a 67% jump over January.
But I think what's most concerning the community right now is the level of organization that we're seeing in an attempt to sort of, directly intimidate the Jewish community.
Police say a total of 84 hate crimes have been reported in 2024 so far, with 56% of those classified as anti-Semitic in nature. February saw the highest number of reported anti-Semitic hate crimes of any month in the last 3 years.
And ultimately what we're encouraging them to do the most right now is to reach out to, their non-Jewish friends and to peers in their schools and to reach all of those folks and help them understand that we really need their support.
Police say the stats showed that anti-LGBTQ hate crimes were the second most reported type of incident, followed by anti-Black hate.
I think that we have to do a lot more education in schools. We're doing some of it, but not enough. And I think teachers have to be educated and parents have to be educated, because this, hatred it's like a disease.
Police say incidents of Islamophobia are on the rise too. DemQ says the service has added a second liaison officer to the city's Muslim community while it explores new ways to report alleged hate crimes to police.
I know from talking to people in the community that Islamophobia is a significant concern, and given our statistics, I am concerned about significant underreporting.
That part of the report doesn't sit well with the Jews Say No to Genocide coalition.
You cannot, in good conscience, put out a report that both has a underreporting problem as well as a reporting problem, in that we don't have clarity into how a lot of these incidents of anti-Semitism are actually defined.
Toronto Police say it's maintaining a permanent command post in the Bathurst Street corridor, an area home to many of Toronto's Jewish communities. Command posts are also being set up at mosques on a rotational basis throughout the month of Ramadan. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
A car was stolen every 40 minutes in Toronto last year. Now, that update also coming from Chief DemQ today. He says 12,000 vehicles were stolen across the city last year with a combined value of $790 million. A concerning number for sure, but Toronto's mayor is also concerned about the methods.
It's a bit violent, some of them. Some will just bash through the door and run in. Others are bump you at the back and come in to try to pull you out and get your keys and drive off.
So far this year, the city has seen 68 carjackings, which is a 106% increase compared to the same period last year. The city is also dealing with a shift in how cars are stolen, with thieves breaking into homes to grab keys to a vehicle. A man accused in the killing of a Toronto police officer nearly 3 years ago is pleading not guilty to first-degree murder. Umar Zamir is facing the charge in the death of Constable Jeffrey Northrup. Zamir entered his plea today as jury selection began in his trial. Patrick Swadden has more.
The lawyer representing Umar Zamir, the 34-year-old charged with first-degree murder in connection with the 2021 death of Constable Jeffrey Northrup, spoke to media today.
When I addressed the public nearly 3 years ago about this case, I simply asked the public to keep an open mind about this case because there is so much more to it than the inaccurate and sensational snippets that emerged in the media.
That trial now here and expected to last 5 weeks. The 55-year-old Northrup and his partner were responding to a robbery in progress underneath Nathan Phillips Square on July 2nd, 2021. Northrup, an officer with Toronto Police since 1999, was struck by a vehicle and died in hospital. Zamir is alleged to have been driving the vehicle. Northrup's partner was also hit and taken to hospital but survived. Both were in plain clothes. Former Toronto Police Chief James Raymer said at the time,
"We believe this was an intentional and deliberate act."
Zamir was taken into custody and charged, but released on bail in September of that year. The reasons for that decision and evidence presented in court covered by a publication ban. Northrup remembered in 2021 at a funeral with thousands in attendance. He had a park named after him the following year. Today, Police Chief Myron Demkew acknowledging the first day of the trial.
And while this case is before the courts, and I can't comment further, I do want the Northrup family to know that the thoughts of the members of the Toronto Police Service remain with them now and always.
Northrup's widow and son both present today during jury selection. Hassan urging the public to let go of any preconceived notions they may have about the case.
I promised that in due time, the truth will emerge. We are hopeful that this trial will be that time.
Hassan saying he would make no further comment until the conclusion of the case.
The trial is expected to take until April 19th. Jury selection set to continue tomorrow morning, with the prosecution expected to begin presenting its case in the afternoon as the trial gets underway. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, Toronto.
Fire investigators are still trying to determine the cause of a fire that destroyed the Wards Island Association clubhouse. The nearly 100-year-old building was a popular meeting spot and home to the Island Cafe. As Greg Ross reports, many in the community are devastated by the loss.
This cell phone video, captured by a witness, shows the massive blaze that completely gutted the Wards Island Association clubhouse Sunday. Heavy machinery was brought in today to assist firefighters as they comb through the rubble of what is now just an empty cavity.
The investigators are sifting through debris to look for any artifacts or anything that can assist them in ascertaining both origin and cause.
Locals have been coming by to see the damage for themselves, many in disbelief.
I'm still shocked, and I'm sure for a lot of the older islanders that have a lot of history, sometimes generations back, or their business, it's just devastating. They're going to be grieving for a while, I think.
The clubhouse was originally constructed in the 1930s. Destroyed with it were the pictures, paintings, and island artifacts that had been gathered throughout the decades.
But it is such an incredible loss of a cherished community space, a historic site that holds so much history about the community on the island.
But islanders tell us the spirit of what this building meant lives on.
We can rebuild.
Peter Freeman is one of the co-owners of the Island Cafe, which was a longtime tenant of the clubhouse. He says there has been a groundswell of support since the fire.
I just appreciate the love and support. You know, there's always this. It's in an awful situation. There's all this upswelling, and that's kind of heartening in these times.
It's going to take some time to rebuild the clubhouse, but the owners of the Island Cafe say that they are already in talks with the city about having a temporary solution in place this summer. In fact, Freeman says the mayor is already floating some ideas.
Olivia immediately said, well, let's just put some containers on the site. And, you know, there's the cafe, and it's going to take some real time to think about what to do with this site in terms of rebuilding, but the cafe, we could have some containers and we could have a tent.
Fire crews expect to wrap up their on-scene investigation sometime tomorrow. They say it will likely take weeks, maybe even months, before they are able to determine the cause of this fire. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
And you are looking at a live shot of the city, partly cloudy tonight and quite chilly, currently sitting at -1. Let's go to Colette Kennedy now with a first check on the forecast. And Colette, it's been too long. It's so wonderful to be together again.
Oh, Kelda, so nice to be reunited again. Here we are, and on the eve of the beginning of spring. Of course, we have the vernal equinox tomorrow at 11:06 p.m., so I'll be standing here when it occurs, but just knowing the sun over the equator, generally we get into that equal day and night, and then we move forward and hopefully have the weather to go along with it. I know we've had such a mild winter, but of course we're getting this shot of colder air that's going to stick around for about a week or so. An Alberta Clipper as well going across, especially the upper Great Lakes. We're still looking at some of these winds strong at times, although they're backing off tonight through the overnight, but driving the lake effect snow and even some of those scattered flurries making their way right on into the city. We'll deal with this again tomorrow and a little bit into Wednesday too. -2 tonight as things back off, still feeling like -7, and then 2 degrees tomorrow. Scattered flurries, winds change direction a bit, but in that snow belt you are looking at more significant numbers. I'll have more on that, Kelda, coming up.
All right, thanks so much, Colette. A long-delayed construction project in the city's West End could soon be coming to an end, but residents of Old Mill Drive say the work continues to be disruptive. And as Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords tells us, they're asking for accountability from City Hall.
The sound of heavy equipment breaking concrete on a West End street. It's the latest disruption on Old Mill Drive, which made headlines last year after a multi-million-dollar boring machine became trapped under the street. And while that machine has now been freed, neighbors say the project drags on. And work has been even louder and more disruptive, leading to further frustration with the city.
It's quite clear that they really undersold what this step of the project was going to be. In fact, I think it's taken them longer than they anticipated. They were kind of targeting this week to be done the project. Now it's this part of the project, now it's moving into next week. And so once again, we just continue to be affected by delays and noise and at a much more substantial rate than anybody prepares us for.
It's just the latest headache for the neighborhood. In March 2022, a micro-tunnel boring machine digging a new sewer tunnel became trapped. That led to months of heavy equipment, dust, and some alleged flooding.
This smells like poop.
That was so disgusting.
Workers struggled for 19 months to free it so the project could continue. But now the city says the project is nearly completed. Staff say they understand the process has been disruptive.
The challenging part is behind us now. And now we're just moving forward with completing the underground works and then moving over to the restoration.
John Guglielmo says the neighborhood should be compensated.
Because we basically can't go outside and use and enjoy our neighborhood for the last 2.5 years. Now, if someone were to say to me, I'm going to build a 10-story condo in 2.5 years, I would understand that. But to put a single pipe down our road does not take 2.5 years.
They know it's a problem.
Poliello says an in-depth investigation is needed.
I think the Auditor General should do it because it's probably not just this project. There's probably all kinds of projects in the city that are costing way over a budget and nobody's doing a proper study because they're just doing every project piecemeal.
And if you build some...
This expert says tunneling work is difficult and unpredictable.
Engineering projects are complex. The risks are there, uncertainties are there. That will never change. But what could change is better communication.
The city says the final work on the sewer is expected to be completed this spring, and the total price tag of the project has yet to be determined. Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
There's another confirmed measles case in Toronto, and tonight health officials are also warning the public about a potential exposure to the virus at a Scarborough library.
Measles is one of our most infectious viruses, and that's because it's spread through the air. And so someone can actually get measles even 2 hours after someone has left the room.
The latest case is an infant who recently returned from travel and is recovering at home. Officials say the public may have been exposed to measles at a magic show at the Agincourt Public Library on March 11th between 1 and 5:30 p.m. They're asking anyone who is concerned to check their vaccination records. They also advise monitoring for symptoms until April 1st. Measles symptoms can include a high fever and cough, as well as small spots with white centers which appear inside the mouth, and a red rash lasting 4 to 7 days. This is the second lab-confirmed measles case in Toronto. Welcome back. The city is taking steps to better manage a homeless encampment at Clarence Square Park on Spadina. Emergency services have been called to the park for 2 fires since the start of the year.
Over a week ago, I sent an urgent call to the general manager of Toronto Shelter Support Services to call for an action plan.
And the city has approved the plan. It includes having a minimum of 2 security guards on site 24/7, as well as regular visits from Toronto Fire. A working group will also be set up to find housing for encampment residents. The plan is modeled on methods used to reduce another encampment at Allen Gardens. The city says that site had 89 residents at its height. It's now down to 6. Well, you may remember last fall seeing ads defending Metrolinx construction. The ad campaign was panned online and the ads subsequently removed from the transit agency's YouTube channel. Well, now, through a Freedom of Information request, CBC has uncovered how many millions that campaign costs. Lane Harrison has the details.
This Metrolinx construction is killing me.
I know, right? All for more transit and fewer cars, helping you breathe cleaner air and live a healthier life. It's killing you.
Metrolinx spent $2.25 million on the See Beyond campaign, a pair of ads that were published online and shown in movie theaters late last year, but were pulled from the agency's YouTube channel after widespread online backlash. Metrolinx wouldn't provide the campaign's cost when asked earlier this year, so CBC obtained it through a Freedom of Information request.
That is $2.25 million more than should have been spent to condescend to the public. But these are public dollars, and that's a lot of them.
The ads were published online only a month after Metrolinx provided an update on the long-delayed Eglinton LRT, where its CEO said an opening date couldn't be provided.
We're not there yet.
Taxpayer dollars should be prudently spent and not on defending a reputation that is, the facts speak for themselves, incredibly hard to defend.
Marketing professor David Soberman says the timing of the campaign was odd.
Usually when you put out ads like this, it's because you're coupling it with some good news about something which is about to open.
Metrolinx says the goal was to generate debate and discussion around construction, while pointing to long-term benefits of the work. It says it has the utmost respect for communities impacted by construction.
Ugh, this Metrolinx construction is terrible. Like the actual worst. Oh, like the actual worst.
The ads have also spawned their own parodies.
But poor thing, you have to wait a few extra years. Well, actually, it's been 13 years.
Comedian Rodrigo Fernandez Stoll says he knew he had to parody the ads as soon as he saw them at the movies.
I've never heard an entire theater groan.
When it comes to that slap, he says the idea was simple.
We were just trying to say, shut the F up. Like, that's what Metrolinx was saying to us.
Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's go back to Colette now with a more detailed look at your forecast. And Colette, a few days ago, I saw some people out in T-shirts, but the cold is back.
Yeah, Kelda, that seesaw, the record warmth, especially over the weekend, but even today in parts of the west, in place with that strong ridge. And it's the cooler air, that Arctic air that's taking over the Great Lakes. And it's not only the chillier temperatures, but of course these winds. And those winds when you've had a milder winter, it means, yeah, the lakes aren't as frozen as they might have been. So there's that opportunity to pick up that moisture and we get into the lake effect. And as we move forward in time here through to Wednesday, which will be our first official full day of spring as it comes in late tomorrow evening, we're still going to be looking at temperatures running below seasonal. Things begin to level off as we get towards Thursday, but even that's more kind of south of the GTA. So it's going to take some time. It's about a week that we're in this cooler pocket before things really reset. Now, looking at the situation here with some of those streamers, you can see they're very distinct bands, but then we get into something a little more widespread, and that's as this Alberta Clipper comes through, some more widespread flurries into the city and the areas, even though, yes, maybe you were getting some lake effect snow because of northwesterly wind. Well, when you're in the snow belt, even as those winds change to the west and then the southwest, that's still going to give some accumulations, although the areas might shift a little bit. And then even in towards Wednesday, still looking a little more distinct then. And so the pattern opening the skies up a little bit where we get some sun in there, but still the risk of having that kind of activity into the city as we go through midweek. We get more sunshine as we get into Thursday. You can see the change in direction of the winds, and although they back off, they get a little bit lighter through the overnight hours. It even allows a bit of clearing of the cloud deck. They really ramp back up through the daytime hours. The amounts much more significant. Collingwood, Barrie, yeah, that might be a bit high, but that chance there as you add this all together, and then into eastern Ontario, and that's just because you're closer to the center of that area of low pressure as it passes through. -2 tonight for Toronto, then 2 degrees for tomorrow, Wednesday as well. Look at those daytime highs. At this time of year, Kelda, normally we'd be closer to about 5 degrees, so just hang in there.
All right, thanks so much, Colette. Finally tonight, a group of kids from the National Basketball Youth Mentorship Program were treated to a surprise visit by some of the best in the game today.
It's a beautiful evening. We all get the opportunity to come out here and hoop, play the game of basketball, you know, get into some internship and mentor. So, you know, it's going to be a beautiful thing. It's going to be a fun thing.
That's right, Raptors Gary Trent Jr. and Grady Dick hitting the court, shooting hoops and sharing some pointers with the young players. The event was part of a new partnership between Gillette and the mentorship program aimed at providing positive role models for children in sports. And that's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.